doorway one day asking me if I would help them make this club happen. So I was there in the beginning, and I watched them go from a few students who were very strong and wanted to have this group to an award-winning group that I think is the largest in our area. Am I correct about that? Yes. It is the largest Toastmasters group in our area. That's something to be really proud of. So, Tanay is the current president of Tiger Tales and is a second-year computer science graduate student working on his master thesis. And I'm just going to let him have the stage now.
Show of hands. How many of you have fears? How many of you have tried to overcome those fears? How many of you have failed to overcome those fears? And how many of you love dogs? That's right, I am afraid of dogs. As a matter of fact, I am so afraid of dogs that if I see a dog in a room, I just want to escape that room. If I see a dog on the street, I want to take a detour from that street. Yes, I am afraid of an animal that millions of people around the world love and adore. You might be wondering, how did it all begin? How all of a sudden I became so afraid of dogs? Well, like most of my fears, this one also began in my childhood. My father works in a big defense company in India. And when I was 5 years old, we were living in a township that was owned by this big defense company. We were living in an apartment that was shaped like a red C. And in front of that apartment, or in front of that building, there was a big theater. In that building, we were living in a small one-bedroom apartment. Every evening, my friends and I used to play cricket in that playground. Now, living in a township that was owned by a big defense company meant that every evening we would spot a lot of army men jogging around the playground. It was the 90s, and almost all of these army men wore short shorts while jogging. And almost all of them had big moustaches. So every evening, while we would play cricket, we would also play another game. That is, whoever would come with the most number of running moustaches would get a chocolate. Because that's what we could afford that time. In the summer, the company would hire new army men, and they would all move to the apartments nearby. One such man had moved into an apartment on the ground floor of our building. This man, like all the other army men, also had big moustaches. He was tall. Well, when you were a kid, everybody is tall, isn't it? And he also wore short shorts while jogging. But he owned a dog. It was a Pomeranian dog. If you don't know what a Pomeranian dog looks like, let me describe it first. Pomeranian dogs are big. They can be different. They are furry and they are cute. But I think they are very insecure about something. Which is why they're always aggressive. So every evening, our mustache man would take his dog and he would just jog around the playground. And after he was done jogging, he would tie the leash of his dog to his front door of his house, and then he would just go in his house and continue the rest of his day. This dog, however, used to look at us and he used to bark at us every single day. Weeks passed, and this dog used to bark at us. One day, however, a 5-year-old friend of mine had an idea. He thought, we are so bored playing cricket ourselves, let's play with this dog. So he went to the mustache man and said, "Sir, can you please play with this dog?" The man said, "Okay," and he let go of the leash. The dog ran towards us, and specifically, I ran straight towards my house, and as I was running, my entire life was flashing before my eyes. And suddenly the dog bit me. Anybody want to guess where it bit me? I said, on my balls. After that, I will remember taking some painful injections and countless other visits to hospital. From that day onwards, I became so afraid of dogs that if I see a dog on a street, and there are a lot of street dogs in India, if I see one, I would pick up a stone in my hand and I would walk on the other side of the road, hoping that the dog would not charge at me, or else I'd have to throw a stone at this dog. If I'm visiting someone and they have a dog in the house, I would beg them that please try this dog so that I can enter your house. And if I'm driving my bike on the street and there's a dog, I forget about the speed limit and then just drive as fast as I could to escape that street. Now this continued all my life. All my life I managed to escape every single interaction with the dog, except last year. Last year, I was invited by my Toastmaster mentor, Corey, to celebrate Memorial Day with some friends of ours. The plan was that Corey would come to my house and I would sit in his car and then we would go to this bar where I would meet a lot of other people from other Toastmasters club and we would celebrate Memorial Day. According to the plan, Corey came to my house and as soon as I sat in his car, I started talking to Corey. Hey Corey, how's it going? And as I was talking to him, my eyes went to the back seat. There was a dog on the back seat. It was Corey's dog, Jack. Now, Jack, unlike the Pomeranian that bit me, is an Australian Shepard. Jack is much, much bigger than a Pomeranian. I think he was this big. Jack is funny. And he was not interested in us talking. But I was talking to Corey, and my entire attention was focused on this beast that was sitting on the back. Now, if you know what survival instincts are, mine had kicked in that day. And I was just thinking about this topic. But somehow we reached the bar and I managed to survive that car ride. We reached there, I met a lot of new people from different clubs, and while I was having lunch, I started talking to Corey again. And I told him how it was a big deal for me that I even sat in a car with a dog in it. Corey smiled. And before smiling, I told him the entire life story of how a dog met my boss. And he smiled and he said, why don't you pet Jack? Now that was the most stupidest idea I had ever heard. But I thought I had an assignment to do. And if I try to pet Jack and Jack tries to fight me, I can get out of that assignment. So with that malicious intent, I tried to place my hand on Jack's head. And as I did that, you know what Jack did? He was not even interested in it. He was busy looking at some kids playing frisbee. I felt happy that for the first time in my life I actually met a dog. But I also felt sad that I had this big assignment by myself. What Corey did was he broke down my fear of dogs into a small manageable chunk, which was just to pet a good friendly dog. And now I own 15 different dogs. My life has changed since that day. Well, that did not happen. I'm still afraid of dogs, but I'm a little bit more comfortable with them. The point of the story was not about my comfort with dogs. It was about an emotion that we all have. It was about fear. It was about facing those fears. See, I am an anxious person. I have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety. So there's not even a single day that goes by without me having to face something that I'm afraid of. Whether it be talking to professors, or giving class presentations, or meeting new people at a party, or standing on a stage like this and talking to a room full of people. I thought, just like my fear of dogs, I would be able to avoid this fear of public speaking that I had. But you know, being a student, that is not always the case. There are always interactions where you have to do some public speaking, one way or the other. So when I first came to RIT in August of 2017, I thought to myself that I have a clean slate because I didn't know anybody here. And I thought I made a resolution that before graduating from this college, I would try to face this fear that I had as public speaking. I wrote down this resolution and I had a firm commitment that I thought I'll do this. But you know what resolutions are. After graduate classes began, I became so busy that all my resolutions took a backseat. One day, I was waiting for bus at Reason Circle bus stop. And I didn't want to talk to anybody, so I was just reading the posters there. One poster said, join a pottery. I thought, thanks. The other said, join a chess club. I'm not really good at chess. The other said, are you afraid of public speaking? I am. Join a Toastmasters. So I took a photo of that poster and I figured out where the Toastmasters meeting was conducted on campus. The next Wednesday I decided to attend my first Toastmasters meeting. I still remember the day when I first attended my Toastmasters meeting. I went to the classroom and I found out that it was room full of unknown people. I got anxious and I found out the last available seat in that classroom and I went and sat there. I took a phone out of my pocket and I started playing some game. I wanted to look busy so that nobody could come and talk to me. That plan was successful. The meeting started and people were giving speeches on stage. To me, these people looked so good on stage that I thought that they were born to be public speakers. I got overwhelmed. I said to myself, that's it. I've never been even half as good as these guys. And with that overwhelming feeling in my mind, I rushed out of the classroom as soon as the meeting ended. Just like that, my plan, my resolution of joining a club that would help me face this fear and make it a backseat in my life. Few months went by and the new semester had begun. And I was doing good in my graduate studies. But a new year had begun. That meant writing down some new resolutions. And as I was doing that, I realized I had not even completed a single one from last week. I was still overweight. I still was not going to the gym 3 times a day. I was going 0 times a day. And I had not joined the public speaking club. I thought I could do the last one. But to break down this fear again of getting overwhelmed at a Toastmasters club, I thought I'd attend a meeting and I'll break down this fear into one small chunk, which was to talk to anybody there, talk to someone before leaving the club. I decided to attend the Toastmasters meeting again, and I went there, the meeting went well. And after the meeting, I was looking for someone anywhere. And then I met another Toastmasters friend, I met and approached Corey, and I told him how I was here at this very meeting and how overwhelmed I felt. And I thought I'd never be even half as good as these guys. Corey looked at me and he smiled and he said, you are judging yourself with these people here who have spent countless hours practicing their skills. You have no idea how some of these were when they first started Toastmasters. They were just as shy, just as anxious as me. That really encouraged me. The next day, I immediately signed up for the Toastmasters club. And after signing up, I did some small roles like keeping the time of the club, or even counting the votes for the best speaker. After a few weeks, I felt more comfortable and I wrote down my first speech, which is called an icebreaker speech in Toastmasters. I still remember the day before my icebreaker speech. I wrote down my speech and memorized it. I practiced countless number of times in front of a mirror. And as on the day of the speech, I went on the stage. And as soon as I began my speech, my legs started to shake. I was having a panic attack. I was sweating profusely. Hi, my name is Tanay. From India. I was taking pauses so long that you could play an entire song in these pauses. But somehow, managed to complete my speech. And after my speech, you know what these guys at Toastmasters did? They gave me a standing applause. Not in a sarcastic way. There's a tradition at Toastmasters that if someone goes on the stage for the first time and shares their story, he or she is doing an act of bravery by sharing the story in a room full of strangers, and that deserves a standing applause. I felt so happy with that applause that I had forgotten how badly I had done in my speech. I immediately signed for the next one. After that, I successively gave as many speeches as I could and tried to face this fear of public speaking in my face. What Toastmasters did is they broke down my fear of public speaking into small manageable chunks, and with each chunk I was focusing on something that I was afraid of. Whether it be panicking on stage, whether it be having proper eye contact, whether it be proper use of stage, or whether it be not sweating on stage at all. After giving a lot of speeches and facing this fear, I would say I became more brave in facing my fear of public speaking. I was still anxious, however, standing here in front of all of you But I'm able to control and manage it much, much effectively than before. And if a person like me, who couldn't even talk to 2 people before, can stand here and talk to all of you, and I believe that anybody can face that fear. And lastly, I would just like to say that if you were like me, or if you want to improve your public speaking skills, join the Toastmasters club. We meet every Wednesday at Orange Hall 1355 at 6:20.